The first thing you need to do to start your lesson planning is figure out what you need to teach. In a real classroom, you would be finding the curriculum standard that best matches the skills that your students needs or the time of year, depending on that scope and sequence that your school would have. And what you need to do is head over to the Pennsylvania Standards Aligned System website. Throughout our presentation, you did see how to use this website a little bit, and I showed you that vertical viewer that allowed you to see for each grade level the skill that would be before them and the grade level after them. Now I'm going to show you how we just go in and look for standards, because we'll have to do this. Now the first way you can do it is just hit in that standards part of the flower. And for everything that you do on this website, you're going to do a search or a view for your grade level and your subject area. We're going to start with the easiest method, and that's the search standard method. And this is where you go in, and again, we always choose our grade level and our subject. So I'm going to stick with pre-K right now because that's what you're going to do when you do your lesson plan project. And for pre-K, you want to pick a subject area. You want to pick a subject like English Language Arts or mathematics or possibly even science. But it's easier when you stick with the English Language Arts or the math. That's going to cover your reading, your writing, your speaking, your spelling, and math, again, will cover all your math. Those are the main topics that you're going to cover in your classroom. I'm going to choose mathematics because I want to model what the lesson plan project will have, so we'll just stick with math. Now, right now I could scroll down through and I could see all of the math standards. You can also do this by hitting the regular standards button. They kind of look the same even though they're slightly different. I want to go right here, and I know that in math we might ask our pre-K kiddos to count. We might ask them to make patterns. We might ask them to do simple addition. We might ask them to identify shapes. And so I know in my mind that I have to come up with something I'm going to teach my pre-kindergartners in math. And so the fastest way to find those standards for the state is to search by the topic. So I'm going to put in comparing numbers and see what that gets me. You can see in pre-K there's only one standard for comparing numbers. And so it's Common Core, 2, which is the mathematics number, 0.1, and that's because this is the first standard within math, and it's for pre-K, and then comparing numbers is 8.3. So this is the anchor we talked about before, and if you come over here, we can hit this little arrow, and it breaks down the standard area, which falls under numbers and operations, and then the comparing numbers is within that. So again, we see the anchor building. 2.1 is numbers and operations, and then comparing numbers, we go out even further. This is what we would call your standard to teach. And on your lesson plan project, this is the actual standard that you could find for pre-K, and we're going to base our lesson around comparing numbers. So now you know how to find it. Now if we go back, I can put something different in. I'm still in pre-K, I'm still in math. Maybe I want to do shapes. What do pre-kindergartners have to know in shapes? And you can see they have to identify and describe shapes, and then they have to analyze, compare, create, and compose shapes in pre-K. And then I would decide which lesson would be closer to what I wanted to work with my students. Again, you can always click that little arrow to find the standard area. So this standard area was geometry, and again, pre-K. So this is what we do when we want to find a standard to teach. Let's do one more. Let's do, let's see if there's anything for patterns. No results are found. Okay, let's do writing numbers. Let's see if there's anything for that. Let's just put numbers, make it really broad. Okay, so here we have a standard for knowing the number names and counting in sequence. We have count to tell the number of objects. We have comparing numbers, which we already saw. and we have classifying objects and counting the number of objects in each category. So those are the 4 standards when it comes to numbers in pre-K. So this is what you do when you want to find something that would be applicable to teach in your grade. You go into the search standards part of that flower, you choose your grade level, you choose your subject area, and then you type in something you want to find and you see what you get. We're going to come back and move a step further in just a moment and see how we take this standard and we figure out how to be specific in that standard in the classroom.